All right. So for this, I guess we're going through and we're discussing the case.
Oh, there's Marvin.
Hey guys,
How's it going?
good for you.
We just barely started. I'm starting to. I get a lot of feedback. I think from you, Marvin.
It might be me. Hold on.
Is anybody else hearing themselves echo or anything right now?
I'm hearing you echo. Oh, and myself.
Yeah. If I don't get entered in really quickly, can you re-invite me?
Yeah. Can you just click that same link I sent?
Okay, hold on.
Can you hear us okay, Marvin?
Yes.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I think we're picking up ourselves through Marvin's microphone.
Do you hear me?
We can hear you, but you're the one who doesn't echo.
Well, give me 1 sec.
Okay.
Okay, I put my earphones in. Maybe that'll help. Can you bring my phone, please? Let me get it out.
How about now?
I can still hear myself pretty well. Do you have maybe headphones or something you can put in? See if that might help.
Yes, I have. Do you hear me better now?
We can hear you, and I'm not hearing myself echo anymore, so I think that took care of it.
Yay.
Yay!
Okay.
Well, since we're all here real quick, first, do you guys want to go through the group signups real fast for
Yes, that'd be great.
leaders for the rest of the semester? So we'll get like just a 4-week set, and then we'll just repeat that through the rest of the semester. So who would like to be the leader next week?
I can do it.
Okay.
And then who would like to do the week after?
I can do that one.
Okay. Then Marvin, are you okay for week or lesson 6?
Okay, that's fine for me.
And then I will do lesson 7. Go to Karen for lesson 8. Natalie for lesson 9.
Okay.
Marvin for lesson 11, and then myself again for lesson 12. And I'll send this out again. I'll email this to everybody
Okay.
Great.
so that we all have a copy of that.
Perfect.
So to start talking about this, give a quick synopsis of the case, at least as I saw it. So I was talking about Derby Foods. They had recently started that marketing partnership with Winter X Games, And then that became an issue. Simon York, who seemed to have like kind of spearheaded and gotten that branding initiative to start, started berating some of the employees on the warehouse floor for what he said was inferior work. Griffin had seen like previous issues in a meeting in which he also belittled and bullied a member of his team for a minor issue, like something that should have been done properly, but just wasn't, and then he made it into a larger deal. So, what did you guys like see like as like the main issues from the case?
Well, I'll go first if that's okay. I'm still pulling stuff up. I was going to pull up my case study write-up, but one of the main things was obviously some leadership issues, poor communication, and was just jumping into his role and going full steam ahead without, you want to step into a leadership position, but you also want to size up the situation a little bit, open yourself up to some good communication with your people instead of just barging right in and trying to take over when you really don't know what's exactly going on. So I felt like there's a lot of communications issues. He was putting his staff off instead of trying to gain trust with them and trying to get good communication. So it could be something that maybe could be dealt with a little bit of training for him. It's really expensive to just let a person go, and he was a talented employee. He may not fit into the leadership role, but before they go through the cost of getting rid of him and putting someone else in, they might try some leadership training. That's probably what my number one suggestion was. And it would be up to Griffin, to figure out some of this, what kind of leadership training would help with this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely had like some of those same thoughts about that. Like, this was a new role for him, and it seems like he almost didn't understand what leadership actually is. It made me think of like some of our reading that we had this week about some of I'm taking so many business courses, I forget what business books I'm reading in what class, but there's one where they're talking about humility in leadership.
That's the thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, like I'd get confused in all my classes because I have a religion course and 4 business courses, so they kind of run together. But it talks about the necessity for humility and leadership, and he almost seemed like he was going into this leadership role as meaning that he would just get what he wants, and it would be done automatically every time the way that he wants with no exceptions.
I was thinking about, I'm in the same boat. I'm in a lot of business classes, and so I was reading about ethics, business ethics, and I was just thinking, like, if York continued to demand such high expectations of his employees, a lot of times you can run into ethical issues in that sense, because they want to make sure they get the right note or the right numbers and things like that, and so sometimes they kind of cut corners a little bit, and you can run into ethical issues in that way. Again, kind of like what Marin said, like training him. Like sometimes it's not always about the bottom number, but it's about like your employees and the way that you get the number. Basically repeating what you guys already said.
Like, I think that's like really interesting because it kind of speaks to like the culture that he was building there, where he was building a culture of ends justify the means. Only results matter. It doesn't matter anything else between here and there.
Yeah.
I don't like one of the questions in here to suggest for discussion is like, what else do you see like as the culture at Derby Foods from what we had in the case study?
I'm sorry, would you repeat that? What do we think of the culture?
What do you see the culture as at Derby Foods?
Oh, okay.
To be honest, for me, I thought they had a decent culture, just from what I could tell from how Griffin handled the situation. Like, yeah, she probably got a little uptight about it, but I think for me at least, I was just mostly focused on York and how he was going to eventually, like, almost like a rotten apple or a rotten potato that will kind of bring everything down. That's kind of how I viewed it. I thought that they had a good, but that it could have been tainted by what he was doing.
Well, like in the situation that was given, what were some of the courses of action that you think that Griffin should have taken at that moment?
I think one of the things that we read briefly about, but I read about in another class, a business class, was the 360 feedback. I think she needed to. She said that she was going to speak with him pointedly, I think is how it was said in the case, about some of the issues. And I think initiating that 360 feedback program would be great, because it's something you don't have to just handle one time. You keep working with the person and keep getting feedback and keep giving feedback. So it's a two-way street. And I think that's one program you should certainly initiate, not just with him, but probably all of her employees.
What is a 360 feedback?
From what I remember from another class, it's that it's not just the managers giving to employees, and instead they're constantly giving that employee feedback, positive and negative, trying to help them to improve. It's all constructive criticism, and the employees can also give feedback to one another and then back up the chain, so that they're getting 360 degrees is the idea. They're getting feedback from so many different aspects. And it's not just a one-time, once-a-year evaluation saying, yes, you're doing great, or no, you're doing terrible. You're getting constant feedback, so you know where to improve, or you know if you're really slacking, and it is constant.
Mm-hmm. Like, that's a really great idea, because, I mean, it's a frustrating thing when you have a job and you go in for your annual performance review and your boss tells you, well, I think that you performed poorly in this particular sector, and it was an area that you might think that you've been doing just fine in. But if you'd been getting that constant feedback, it could have been something that you could have been working on, instead of having it dumped on you when it had grown to an issue.
Right.
So,
has anyone else learned about that in their classes? Did I describe it correctly? I think that's the way I remember it.
I mean, it sounds legit.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, like, some of the solutions that she has there. An extreme solution I kind of had was, Karen had alluded to it earlier, but was promoting back to a previous position. Mm-hmm. Not everybody is cut out for leadership, or not everybody's cut out for leadership right now. But I also worry with how York's acted, that he might have kind of poisoned the well, I guess, and that he has made it difficult to go back to having some of those normal working relationships.
Right.
I don't know. What do you guys' thought? Like, do you think that would be like a difficult thing to overcome?
I do. Hopefully it's caught early enough, but they might have to do something as a lateral reassignment if they really think he's going to make it as a leader. Mm-hmm. If not, they might have to reassign him back down as an employee rather than a leader.
Yeah, because that's I don't know. That's a really hard thing to overcome when somebody is, displaying belittling and bullying behavior. That's a really poor leadership characteristic, and that can really just destroy and poison the entire firm, especially right here where he is, the entire company is getting behind this initiative that he helped bring about. Say she say she has this discussion with him, what are some things that Griffin would talk to York about? Or how would you think that be the best way to have that discussion?
I'll give someone else a chance if you want.
That's a hard, I don't know.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Like, what would be the best way, or how would you, if you were Griffin, how would you give feedback to York and have a discussion with York about some of these issues?
I think, at least for me, I would just be really honest, and this might not be the best approach, but just be very upfront and frank, but still kind, and just tell him the issues and then expectations that leadership in the company have for him, for his behavior to change. And maybe just make it clear, like maybe this wasn't made clear to you when you accepted this role, but you can't treat your employees this way. Like, I don't know, maybe they have an employee handbook or something, or I'd make one. I don't know. I'm just spitballing ideas. I don't really know how I would handle that situation.
Yeah, I like the necessity of an employee handbook, just because that always gives you something to always fall back on in certain situations. Say you do have that discussion with him in that way, about talking to him just very frankly about it. How do you think he would respond to that type of discussion?
I think, at least from the case study and the characteristics of his, I don't know, his characteristics, I feel like he might take it the wrong way, and that he might get very defensive and kind of say, well, look at what I've done for the company. Look at what, like, I created this snack food that is at the Winter X Games. And because it even said that in the case study, like, he's very confident in his abilities. He's not really willing to learn. And so I don't know, how would you teach someone the quality of being willing to learn? I guess that's the issue.
Mm-hmm. So you're trying to really, like, convey the need for humility.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly the word I was thinking of when we started out with this. Was it depends if he's got some humility in him or not. I think you described it really well, Natalie. And the problem is that the team will have a hard time gaining trust with him if he continues to act that way. But if she can address it, if Griffin can address it with him and be, kind but forthright about what needs to happen, maybe he just didn't realize he was stepping on toes. Maybe he didn't understand his stewardship in that role yet. So he could take on that role and do just fine at it with a little bit of constructive criticism from Griffin. But again, from the case study, the characteristics that we see, it doesn't look like he's going to be that kind of person. It's a little hard to tell.
One of the things that I think about is I can't imagine that he displayed some of these characteristics before he was promoted, or else they would not have put him in charge of a team. Or I would hope that they would not have put him in charge of a team at the very least.
Right.
So something must have changed, or he does not understand what the role of a leader is.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it goes back to he's so focused on the bottom line, on the numbers, on the profits, on the relationship with their partners, but he's not focused on the people who work with him. Maybe because he's been there and all of a sudden he's in a leadership role, so he's treating his inferiors just like he would his coworkers. I don't know. Just an idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have a good point. I think that's really true. It could be that this is what he's done all along, and he thinks that's what has gotten him there. And now he needs to become more of a people person. And, he might just need to develop into that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true, because maybe he was able to work in more of a solitary position before, and now he's just being thrust into having more people and having to rely on their results and how they work instead of just himself. Like, it's one thing I've kind of had to learn how to do in doing a lot more group work, because BYUI is very focused on doing lots of group projects and things like that together. And it can be, I'm not a perfectionist by any means, but sometimes it can be frustrating when you're in group projects and you want things done a certain way or by a certain time, and you're having to learn to count on other people. But you're not going to get anywhere closer to getting those things done if you're just berating your team members about that.
Mm-hmm.
In this scenario, what do you think like our group's main recommendation should be for Griffin going forward? Marvin, what would you recommend at this point for Griffin to go forward to solve this? What do you think our group like recommendation should be?
I don't know. It's a little hard because, like you guys say, we don't know what the character of York. In
Yeah, I mean that is true. Like it can be difficult to know without knowing more about the person, because so much of our interactions have to be tailored specifically to the person and what will be most effective for them. But like, out of curiosity, like on your case study, what did you put as like maybe your solutions for here?
For all of us?
For anybody, that's fine.
No.
Oh. Oh, you can go, Karen. Sorry.
No, you're fine. My recommendations, including, like I mentioned before, the leadership training of some kind for Griffin to give to York. Maybe making sure that he knows his organizational responsibilities or his stewardship in his new job, and making sure that there's some communication in the team. It's York also said that he had these expectations of his people, but did he ever communicate that to them? We don't know. Again, it's something that's not in there, but it made me wonder, well, if he's got this high bar, has he let anybody else know what he expects? The other thing too is that just as I finished up the reading this week, it talked about making mistakes and being able to own up to the mistakes. And it's okay to make mistakes as long as we take responsibility for them. I can't remember exactly how it was put, but it talked about, I think it was, I wanted to say it was Warren Buffett, but I'm not sure, about someone coming in to pretty much confess a big mistake that he had made. And he said, we make mistakes, and thanks for letting me know, and let's move on, and he thought it was going to be a big, huge deal, but it was taken care of in a matter of minutes. So I think also just some training or some enlightening him as to the fact that don't berate your people when they make a mistake, help them to learn from it. And now that you've made some mistakes too, go fix them, and then let's move on.
That's a lot of what I put inside one of my solutions. Do you think that a ultimatum would be appropriate to explain, if some of these issues aren't able to be solved, then further steps would have to be taken? Or do you think that that would be too aggressive?
Part of the 360 feedback that I was talking about, I'm sure our instructor who knows business is probably saying, she's got this all wrong. But from what I remember, a part of the 360-degree feedback was that you're constantly setting goals with them and then checking in with them to say, okay, how are we doing? Did we progress in this area? So if, I'm sorry, I kind of got off on what I was saying. So if they do work that, with him making goals and making sure he meets goals in little steps at a time, then I think that they can find success in the company.
I like that. I like that 360 leadership quite a bit. Just because it's focused on the actual goal of coaching, which coaching is often like a disciplinary thing, but you're really doing it just because you want to change and correct behavior. Mm-hmm. And it seems like 360 is trying to do that the 360 leadership is trying to do that in a very positive way, right, instead of doing it as a punishment.
And they really want everybody to succeed and stay in the company if it's a good, solid employee like York has been. Now, but then the Good to Great book, suggests if that's not the right person in the right seat, get them out of there before they're wasting more company time and company money. So that's why I also suggested they might have to reassign him. We don't have enough information in the case, but that would be my recommendation, is to work with him first, see if he can be molded into what he needs to be. And then if not, he needs to be reassigned before more time and money is wasted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I completely agree with that. Just he has value, and you want that value to be able to be put to work for your company.
Yeah.
Well, with that being our recommendations, this being our first time doing this, I'm not sure if I'm doing this particularly well.
No, I think you're doing fine.
But I think that we've covered a lot of our key concepts, especially with how we were all able to constantly bring it back to doing leadership with humility. But I think
can I?
Oh, go for it.
Oh, what was that? Well, I was just thinking, because that was my recommendation too in my case study, was leadership training. Like, we have to get him to understand how to communicate with people better. Otherwise, we're going to have to demote him. But as I was just thinking about it, one thought that came to me was, well, maybe it's something that needs to start not from, leadership training would be very good and very beneficial, and it's something that should be implemented, but also implementing ground up training. So like we said, like an employee handbook, or really making our values as a company really, really apparent, even to the bottom people. So then as people continue to grow into those positions, they already kind of expect and know the environment that they're working in, and what's expected of them as leaders. That was just a thought I had.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. When they are constantly training employees to become leaders someday, then they always have a base of leaders to choose from. It's a win-win situation.
Yeah, that's a really great idea. That way you're not, whenever people are promoted up, they understand, what the culture still is and what is expected of them. Well, thank you guys, everybody, for being here and joining in our group meeting.
Yeah, is that it? Did we cover it all?
Just about, yeah.
Yay.
Awesome.
Okay, so I have a question about, I know that you are supposed to submit this and everything, but then we also have a place on our assignments. Are we supposed to submit the link as well, do you think?
I don't believe so. But let me take a look real quick.
The instructions say that you're supposed to do it on your week, but then in our check off of assignments, this is one of our assignments.
I think you guys will be all good what I'll end up doing is just posting our video along with everybody's name underneath it who participated in the video.
Okay.
But in any other class that I've had where we've had to submit our group meeting videos, it was just the group leader that week or one person had to submit to the submit this in.
I also have one quick question too. So I've made a Google Hangout before for a class, and I have never been able to record it. And I don't know, is there a button in the Hangout, or do I have to go back to the YouTube page?
I do all of my stuff entirely through YouTube.
Okay. Okay, so then you just make it live?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just going to do it like we did our first videos through this class. It's changed a little bit. It used to be through Google Hangouts on Air, and now it's through YouTube. So it's changed
Google
a little
Hangouts on Air, I think it went away, like at the beginning of last semester. And so that semester they told us just to do it this way. So I just go into like a Creator Studio and go live and send everybody the invite, and it sets it up like this.
Okay. Thank you.
Perfect.
No problem. All right. Well, does this time and day work for everybody? So 8 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Pacific, or not Pacific, but Mountain on Thursdays work for you guys?
Yes.
Works for me.
Yep, it's perfect.
Awesome. Well, in that case, you guys have a wonderful evening, and I will see you guys next week.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank
Good luck
you.
this week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.